What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Seagull Speed 252. And I want to thank you all out there, yes, for pushing that play button. So today we're going to talk about the Accelerate Yellow C8 mid-engine Corvette that was finally unveiled in the world today. We're going to talk about these dyno results that was actually boxed by Motor Trend, stating that the base model C8 mid-engine Corvette actually produced 650 horsepower. And they thought we was going to really believe that. Come on now. A C8 mid-engine Corvette base model producing 650 horsepower. Please, I didn't believe that for 1 second. I'm not going to lie, I actually kind of believed it for like a few minutes there. But at the end of the day, we're glad we got the actual real results. And I will admit, even though they came out and said the C8 mid-engine Corvette produced 650 horsepower, Chevrolet didn't come out and deny it at least. So they was like, hey, we're going to ride along with this boat and see what happens. So during their initial testing of the 2020 Corvette Stingray, Motor Trend took the opportunity on their final day with the car to put it on a Mustang dyno to see what kind of horsepower the new LT2 V8 engine was making. The results were out of this world, as their first in sequence test found out the car was making more than 495 horsepower that GM advertised. And a lot of people question this because a lot of people thought that GM might have downplayed this car just so we can be excited for the things to come. And don't get me wrong, do I think this car can possibly produce or withstand at least more, 495 horsepower? Absolutely. So let me give you a recap of what exactly Motor Trend did the first time when they came out with these false results. On Motor Trend's first test, the dyno results showed 558 horsepower and 515 foot-pounds of torque at the wheel, which means that the engine was offering an estimated of 656 horsepower and 606 pounds of torque at the crank. From the LT2 SAE certified 495 horsepower and 470 foot-pounds of torque, multiple runs in the 5th gear generated similar results, so when they ran it again in the 6th gear, the numbers came in at 478 horsepower and 536 foot-pounds of torque, which translates to an estimated of 562 horsepower and 630 pounds of torque. And their final dyno ran would generate the similar results. Now, while Corvette owners were very appreciative of this extra horsepower, which a lot of people do, a lot of people thrive off the extra horsepower, the cooler heads set back, and soon a number of journalists offered their opinions on why these dyno results was very impossible and why they thought Motor Trend was very wrong for what they did. Jason, who wrote an article on a C8 mid-engine Corvette for Road and Track, wrote up a piece that says and uses math and science to validate a scientific test that this was definitely not true. Now, there has been a representative from the Corvette team who suggested that they head over to Motor Trend in the morning to actually post a follow-up on their C8 Corvette dyno article. After all that was said and done, now we learned that our dyno operator selected 2 dyno settings that were incorrect. One is a key parameter that had yet to be released for the C8 and so now is estimated from the C7 data. That is a road load horsepower at 50 miles per hour. The factor incorporates friction and aero drag, and it can be measured by conducting cost down tests. But because of dyno testing, the C8 was the last minute fulfilling our schedule when real MPG testing proved impossible on our last day with the C8, we had no opportunity to measure it, according to Motor Trend. The dyno operators used 12.6 when Chevrolet has informed us that the correct factor for the Z51 should have been 15.4, but the bigger boo-boo was that the diameter was also set to assume all-wheel drive. It will be nice if GM decided to release it all-wheel drive on the Z06. Hint, I'm just hoping that it happens at some point. But anyways, Motor Trend also goes on to say these 2 factors conspired to make the dyno believe that the Corvette's powertrain was overcoming way more inertia than it really was, which led to the inflated results. Sadly, there is apparently no way virtually to rerun the test in the computer with corrected parameters, so we simply must get another C8 back and run the test again. Motor Trend goes on and say that the torch red Corvette road test results were impressive, that they wanted to find some proof of the actual horsepower and that they attempt to do utilizing road dyno pulls from their drag strip runs. The magazine says they came up with the car producing 425 horsepower just past 6,300 RPMs and assuming that 15% loss and you get 500 horsepower. A similar road dyno test of a Sebring Orange C8 Corvette produces a result of 465 horsepower and 412 foot-pounds of torque. The magazine concludes that more dyno and track testing is required until we can get baseline of what the car actually is making. While we are certainly no dyno expert in any degree, we hope the next dyno test of the 2020 Corvette Stingray takes place on the DynoJet dyno, which is said to be more accurate than the Mustang branded dynos. I like how Motor Trend goes on to blame this on a Mustang dyno. Let's be realistic. I don't know how many of you guys or ladies actually believe that the C8 mid-engine Corvette base model put out 650 horsepower. For a brief second there, I actually believed it because I'm not a guy who goes out and dyno my car every day. How many of you actually went out there and decided to dyno your car, your current C7 Corvette, or even your previous generation Corvettes when you first got it? Not too many people. So for them to say like, oh, we use a Mustang dyno, you should have known something was going to be wrong in the first place. If you genuinely ask me, and I could be wrong, I don't know nobody that worked for Motor Trend, but this is me saying my own opinion. I think they knew what they was doing. I think Motor Trend did this to actually get the clicks, to get to the hype up, to get the information out there, and just kind of provide some things that they thought people was going to believe. And then Chevrolet kind of stepped in, I guess, at some point down the road, was like, hey, you guys need to redo this all over again because what you provided was inaccurate information. And good for Chevy to actually step in and actually say this at some point down the road. But they didn't say anything when it first came out, but then they said something later on the road. Because if you think about it, you don't want Motor Trend results to hurt your new, I guess, upcoming C8 mid-engine Corvette. Think about it. If Motor Trend says, hey, the new C8 base model Corvette produces 650 horsepower, then they go out and dyno the Z06 and say, oh, it produces 550 horsepower. People are going to be like, what? This is wrong. This isn't right. So then that's going to mess up Chevrolet's future goals of what their plans are for the C8 mid-engine Corvette, the Z06 version. At least that's just my true honest opinion, but I could be completely wrong. The last thing you need is for Chevrolet to say, oh, the new C8 mid-engine Corvette has 650 horsepower. And people are like, well, why the base model has 650 horsepower? Why they both have the same amount of horsepower? That can be confusing to a lot of people, and so that makes sense why Chevrolet decided to come out later down the road. Hey, you guys' information was actually incorrect. Let's figure out how to get this correctly done right, so that way for our future models there won't be any misleading or misguided information. So for all of you, leave your comments down below. What do you thought about Motor Trend actually going back and saying that information was correct? Do you actually think they did this on purpose and leak that fake information just to get the information out there and some clicks? Or do you actually think they actually truly made a mistake and now going back to correct it? But with that being said, let's get into the Accelerate Yellow mid-engine Corvette. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I am super excited to tell you the C8 mid-engine Corvette Accelerate Yellow has now officially been unveiled. This is the actual car. This is the actual color. It was actually leaked by the National Corvette Museum. They actually had the car drive around the loop and they got it on camera. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to lie, I don't know exactly how I feel about the Accelerate Yellow yet. This was one color that everybody's been expecting to see, couldn't wait for. And I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, tell me you guys, what are you guys' thoughts on the Accelerate Yellow thus far? Now, granted, no one has yet, as far as I know, I've seen it in person other than the person that's recording this right now and the people at the National Corvette Museum. But right now, I think that, I don't know, I just need to see it in person before I make any judgment on what I think about the Accelerate Yellow. But what are you guys' thoughts? Leave your comments down below. Have any of you decided to actually build a C8 mid-engine Corvette and Accelerate Yellow, or do you guys already decided on anything else? I do know the Rapid Blue, though, looks really nice in person. I mean, it's a very beautiful color. I think once the sun hit it, when the sun doesn't hit it, it looks great both ways. And I love a color that looks great in the sun and without the sun. I'm going to admit, one color that looks good in the sun to me is Zeus Bronze. Outside of the sun, it doesn't look that great, but that's just your preference. That's a preference thing in my personal opinion. Now that the strike has gone and passed, have any of you guys got any updates on when your C8s are getting built? Have you guys decided to wait for the Z06 version instead? Have you guys really became more excited now by the C8 mid-engine Corvette? That's the strike has now ended. Give me you guys thoughts. I got some big news coming to the channel pretty soon. I'm going to announce in a video, an upcoming video for you guys. And I'm super excited to grow this channel. I'm glad you guys are part of my family. Let's keep growing together. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, then I don't know what you're waiting for, because once again, Seagonna Speed 252 is one of the best channels to be a part of. And I'm going to add some new merch to the website as well, so definitely feel free to check out the website.